The Buffalo Bills are heavily linked to the defensive line position heading into this 2026 NFL draft. And in this video, we're going to cover who exactly they're linked to, bringing in multiple players for top 30 visits. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Breaking Tables. I'm your host, Alex, and today we've got a big show. We're going to start things off at the edge position, and let's talk about which edge rushers the Buffalo Bills already have on their roster. You have Greg Rousseau, Bradley Chubb, your two starters, great quality players. Then you have Michael Hoyt, who's hopefully healthy to start the 2026 season. Same goes for Landon Jackson, their third-round pick last year. And then lastly, you have Javon Solomon. Compared to other positions on the field, Buffalo haven't done that much scouting and homework at the edge position, only really meeting with two players at the combine. And the first player we're going to be talking about, Malachi Lawrence out of UCF. He stands at 6'4", weighing in at 253 pounds with 33-inch arms. A little shorter than desired, but nothing to be super concerned about. And then at the combine, he tore it up, running a 4.52 second 40-yard dash, third in his class. He also logged in a 40-inch vertical and a 10-foot 10-inch broad jump, both second in the class, resulting in a near perfect 9.94 out of 10 relative athletic score. He also had himself an extremely productive 2025 season, being named first team All Big 12 with 28 tackles, 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles. When it comes to his player archetype or style, the best way to describe him is a quick or twitchy edge rusher that holds up well in the run game. And when it comes to his draft projection, I would expect Malachi Lawrence to be off the board around the middle of that second round. Moving on to the second edge rusher the Buffalo Bills met with at the combine, that would be Jaishawn Barham out of Michigan. He stands at 6'3", weighing in at 240 pounds with 32-inch arms. Now with 32-inch arms, you can kind of raise that red flag for concern. And then he also ran a 4.64 40-yard dash. And over the span of his 2025 season, he recorded 32 tackles with 10 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. When describing his archetype or playstyle, I would say that he's a quick and twitchy edge rusher that serves as the perfect example of a 3-4 outside linebacker. I could see him coming off the board either at the end of day 2 in the 3rd round or at the start of day 3 in the 4th round. I don't see a way he slips into the 5th. I think the Buffalo Bills were planning on drafting an edge rusher in those mid-rounds, but then they signed Bradley Chubb, hence why they haven't met with anyone since then. Instead, I think the Bills end up double dipping at defensive tackle, a position they've done way more homework on. At defensive tackle, the Buffalo Bills currently have some room for improvement. At 3 technique, you have Ed Oliver, TJ Sanders, and Dwayne Carter, who hopefully will be healthy this season. At 1 technique, you have Deon Walker, who's coming off a phenomenal rookie season, Phidarian Mathis, and Zion Logue. And with how much work the Buffalo Bills have put in scouting the defensive tackle position, I think they end up leaving the draft with 1-1 technique and 1-3 technique. For those of you who don't know, the 1 technique can also be referred to as the nose tackle, the player that lines up in between the center and the guard, usually works to plug up the run, whereas the 3 technique is more of that pass rush specialist defensive tackle, lines up onto the guard or outside of the guard. In the first defensive tackle, we'll be talking about the 1 technique out of Georgia, Christen Miller, who met with the Bills on a top 30 visit as well as back at the combine. He stands at 6'3", weighing in at 321 pounds with 33-inch arms. Again, nothing to be super concerned about, but on the shorter side. In 2025 with the Bulldogs, he recorded 23 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks. What stuck out to me when watching his tape at Georgia is that he's a good run stopper, he's hard to push around, he's a good tackler, he's very quick for a nose tackle, and he can contribute on 2nd or even 3rd down if you really want him to. My knocks on Christen Miller are that he's kind of a tweener. He's not that traditional big nose tackle. He lacks that size and that length. And he also isn't a dominant run defender as it is. He reminds me more of a better version of Phidarian Mathis and Zion Logue rather than a Deon Walker. I see him coming off the board in the middle of day 2, whether that's the back end of the 2nd round or the early part of the 3rd round. Moving on to the next defensive tackle we'll be talking about, Domonique Orange, also known as Big Citrus, the 1 technique out of Iowa State. He met with Buffalo on a top 30 visit. He stands at 6'2", weighing in at 322 pounds with 33-inch arms. Again, a little shorter than desired. Now, he's a true nose tackle. He's very hard to move. He's a good run stopper, a good tackler. He moves pretty well for his size as well, and he's got active hands. He is a little more athletically limited compared to a guy like Christen Miller, and that's why I think he goes in the back end of the 3rd round or early in the 4th round. And moving on to my favorite prospect out of the group of players we're talking about today, Lee Hunter, also known as the Fridge, the 1 technique out of Texas Tech. met with Buffalo on a top 30 visit. He stands at 6'3", weighing in at 318 pounds with 33-inch arms, again a little shorter than desired, and he also ran a 5.18 second 40-yard dash at the combine. He had himself an extremely productive season with Texas Tech, logging in 41 total tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. He is a true nose tackle, very hard to push around. He has great burst off the line, sheds blocks really well, active hands, a good tackler, and he can contribute on second or even third down if you really want him to. When you combine his traits and production, he presents himself as a very intriguing player entering the NFL draft. I see him going off the board in the middle of day 2, that back end of the second round, or that early part of the third round. Next up, we've got Gracen Halton, the 3 technique out of Oklahoma. He met with Buffalo on a top 30 visit and on Zoom as well. He stands at 6'2", weighing in at 293 pounds with 31-inch arms. Very short to say the least. That's where you can raise the red flag for concern. And Gracen Halton had a phenomenal combine performance, running a 4.82 40-yard dash, third in the class, logging in a 36.5-inch vertical, first in the class, a 9'6" broad jump, third in the class, resulting in a near perfect 9.7 out of 10 RAS score. He also had himself a pretty productive 2025 season, logging in 33 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. For the things I like about Gracen Halton, he's got a high motor, great burst off the line, quick and active hands, and he's very versatile when it comes to lining up in the interior of the defensive line. And for the things that I don't like, he's very raw when it comes to his technique, both in run and pass defense, and he's undersized, whether that be with his weight, 293 pounds, but more so with his 31-inch arms. I would expect Gracen Halton to come off the board either in that back end of the third round or early part of the fourth round. And last but not least, a player that's turning a lot of heads right now, Landon Robinson, the 3 technique out of Navy, who came in for a private workout with the Buffalo Bills. And he's got a very unique build. 5'11", 297 pounds with 31-inch arms. Yes, his arms are short, but it's less of a concern compared to a guy like Gracen Halton, only because Landon Robinson already wins the leverage battle at 5'11". A big reason why he's been turning heads as of late is due to his phenomenal performance at his pro day, running a 4.87 40-yard dash and 30 reps on the bench press, which would have tied second place in his class at the combine. Landon Robinson also had himself an extremely productive 2025 season, being named first team All-American and AAC Defensive Player of the Year, recording 34 pressures and 6.5 sacks. He's got great burst and explosivity off the line, active hands, and he holds his ground very well, doesn't get pushed around. Weirdly enough, he's not a liability in the run game whatsoever. He can anchor really well, despite his size, despite his lack of length, all because of his low center of gravity. He's able to bend that knee, do that Byron Murphy technique, and really set an anchor, making it really hard to push him around. He presents himself as an extremely unique prospect heading into this 2026 NFL draft, with 5 other teams interested in him, with the Cincinnati Bengals way ahead of the others, bringing him in for a top 30 visit. Now, with a player like this, it's very hard to predict when he's going to go off the board, but if I had to, I would say anywhere from rounds 5 to 7, leaning towards that earlier part, rounds 5 or 6, I would expect him to come off the board. Now, I am fairly certain the Buffalo Bills end up double dipping on draft day. If I had to pick 2 prospects the Buffalo Bills come away with, I think they go after Lee Hunter, the 1 technique out of Texas Tech on day 2, and then on day 3, get the 3 technique out of Oklahoma, Gracen Halton. That way you really beef up your defensive line for 2026. Good players all across the board, most of them young, who hopefully can develop into even better players. It's only fitting, since we're talking about defensive linemen, I want to break some news to you guys. Earlier today, the Houston Texans extended Will Anderson, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in football, passing Micah Parsons on a 3-year, $150 million deal with $100 million guaranteed. Love the deal for both sides. Houston has put together such a scary defensive unit. I mean, us Bills fans saw it when we played Houston last year. It was just terrifying. Josh Allen was running for his life all game. And one more thing before I let you guys go. The Jacksonville Jaguars and Atlanta Falcons made a trade exchanging players of the same position. The Jaguars get Ruka, the defensive tackle from the Falcons, and the Falcons get Mason Smith, the defensive tackle from the Jaguars. I really like the trade for the Jaguars. Not sure why the Falcons did it, but I mean, it is a new look defense for them, so I guess he didn't fit their scheme. Ruka is a good player. But that's all I have for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you like and subscribe and comment which player intrigues you the most. I'll see you guys soon with the next video being our last of the series, the wide receiver position. the one I've been most excited to cover. Take care and go Bills.